Recorded live.
I'll welcome everyone warmly today, all of you that are participating in the Mayan Cross Community telewebcast. Thank you so much for continuing this practice, which really is what it is. Today is the 17th out of a total of 20 such Tracina calls that we started way back in, in March, and will end just before Thanksgiving in November. And it is a practice, and oftentimes you kind of drag yourself into your practice, but you always feel so much better, so much fuller and richer and full of light by the time you're completed with the practice. So a lot of times you can't really feel the gratitude for it until the practice is concluded. But here we are. We're in the practice with the 17th out of 20 Tracinas, and the wheels just keep on turning. And I hope that you're feeling, as I am, this deepened sense of how these Mayan time circles work and how they affect our rhythms and our consciousness. And let's talk about that for a bit. Today is October 13th, and on the Gregorian system. And I'm Barbara Sadler. I'm the creator of the Mayan Cross website and producer of these calls. Today on the Mayan sacred calendar is one wisdom. It's also known as forgiveness, and it's also known in the Quiche language as Ahmak. And we'll be kind of using a combination of English and Quiche as we go through the content today. But before we get too much into that and invoke that energy, what I would like to do is just check in with the group here and see if there's anyone that wants to share any insight you've had about how Akabal, or the energy of polarity, it's also known as the dawn or the twilight, or that in-between time between light and dark and light. And if anybody has any insight about what they noticed over the last 13 days with the play of Akabal in this time frame, feel free. The lines are open. You are unmuted. So, and people on the chat, you can type something in if you'd like, and I'll then vocalize it with the rest of the group. Let's just take a minute to reflect and see what comes out. Akabal. We're transitioning out of Akabal now and going into a new energy. So what I often do is look at the Tracina in terms of what's happening on the world stage. And it's been quite the lesson in polarity as we see on our political scene. One side of the aisle digging their heels in, and the other side of the aisle digging in their heels and not willing to negotiate. And if I can say that there's any kind of example of what the lower vibrations of Akabal can be, we've been witnessing this big time over the last 13 days. And I don't like to wax too politically. I know members in this community, are pretty like-minded. But something that struck me, I saw program on PBS, I think it was Friday night, Bill Moyer, and he was sharing some thoughts about what was behind all of this and why it is the way it is right now. And, it's not pretty. I mean, we are definitely working with the darkest energies, that we've seen, certainly from the lawmaker's perspective. I don't know, perhaps in your adult life. And it's, as Tata Pedro talked about last time we did the call on Acabal, he really emphasized the importance to the Maya of being able to go into the dark side of things and not pretend like they don't exist, but to meet them face on and to meet them with an open heart and with love. So I don't know how you've been working with, these trials and that we've been experiencing over the last 13 days, but that's the counsel that an elder like Tata Pedro would give us. I mean, that's the only way really to respond, to keep doing our work, to keep finding those parts within ourselves that are reflective of what's happening on the world stage. And that may be the greater purpose here. Always looking for a bigger picture, always looking for a way to find divinity even among all this darkness. And, what we've seen is hatred and bigotry and, really vile stuff come out. And by seeing that, on a global scale, it really helps us look within to see what parts of our own bodies, our own body minds are reflecting or resonating with that. Bring those into awareness and then clear them out with love and acceptance. So Michelle writes in and says, I had to go on quite a long journey physically and emotionally during this past Jacina. It took me a long time to get back to my normality, like I was hovering between the two worlds. Yes, I can really feel that as well, Michelle. Sometimes it feels like, you have to use every tool you've ever been given in order to greet the day with light and love. And this goes back to, I don't want to sound like I'm on a soapbox, but in a way I am. Like Tata Pedro said, he said, I'm no authority. I'm just about practice. That's it. And living with him for the last few weeks really helped me see how automatic it is for him to get up no matter what kind of dream time he's had and come out, light the fire, face the east, and start the song and the drum to invoke a new day, giving thanks for that clean slate from which we can create. So, anyone else would like to share, feel free. It's been a wild ride, a long journey, as Michelle says. And we're really getting huge opportunities to grow and to evolve. So with that, let's start to work with our new energy, the energy of Achmak, or wisdom, as it's often known as. And I mentioned in one of my postings this week that, there is a definite sequence, there is a definite flow among all of the 20 Nawals in the cycle. And they're logically placed. They are not randomly placed. And I'd like to share, I'm actually going to read something. I usually don't, but I really like the way this is written because it's written verbatim from Akiche Maya, and it comes from a book called The Ancient Spirituality of the Modern Maya, written by Thomas Hart, who's been living down in Shela for decades now. And he finally kind of took interviews with all these different Ahi and tried to get literally from them what their sense of the Nawals is. And this person actually starts with the day sign of Road, and he just talks a little bit about the sequence. And he says, Road is for our path, Reed is for our house, Jaguar for our altars, Sikeen, the bird, is for our business, that our economic situation not be lacking. If there's a business, may it come as soon as possible. And then we arrive at the day Ahmak, which is the day of the sinner. Here we have some tallow candles, and Ahmak, we mention the names of the grandparents that we remember. Perhaps my mother, if he's died. In his name, I thank him for the life he's given me, and on this day, I'm going to mention his name, that he may listen to us, watch us, protect us, help us, give us good ideas and understanding. This is what I offer you, just a tallow candle. But on this day, Ahmak, we give this as an offering. So, this is how they feel. This is how they connect to the energy of this day, Ahmak. But just to go on a little bit, and consecutively, these Nawals are in consecutive order. After Ahmak, we have Noh, or knowledge, intelligence. And may we be given intelligence. And Tihash, the obsidian or the flint, may we not have problems or sudden accidents. And Kawak, the storm, that there may not be problems in the home or with friends. And the sun, or the hunter, that nothing serious will happen in the home. Crocodile, or madness, may that there not be madness. Eek, the wind, that we may have vigor so as to work better. Akabal, dawn, so there may be clarity. Kat, the net, may we be given the understanding, so that Khan, the snake, may all this be as soon as possible, the energy driving that. And Kame, death, may there not be death or a mishap. The deer, may all this be harmonious. Kanil, ripeness, the seed, may all be fertile. Toh, the offering or the payment, all this is a payment. And see, the dog, may there not be injustice. And Bats, the thread, that all we've asked for, may it be given. So that's the cadence with which they run. And let's go back now to talk about the place of Ahmak within that cadence. So the energy yesterday was Sikeen, the bird, or the eagle. A lot of people translate that one as in terms of the eagle, which is the messenger that connects the knowledge of the earth with the heart of the heavens. So heart of the earth, heart of the heavens is connected. That then gives way towards this wisdom. And this wisdom, the ultimate wisdom and the ultimate spiritual act, is forgiveness. That's one of the most difficult things that we as humans deal with. And you may say it's one of those unique characteristics of being human, things that may differentiate us from other species. And forgiveness is, Akmak is one of those nawals that when you're around the sacred fire during the count of days, I think probably percentage-wise, more time is spent on this nawal than all of the other 20. This is a really poignant energy, and it is required, absolutely required for spiritual growth. It is required for us to clear out the fears, the uncertainties, and the doubts, the pain, the transgressions. If we're mired up in those kinds of emotions and thoughts that are, attached to those feelings, you don't have the clarity to love. So in order to love, and love unconditionally, you've got to do a lot of work with forgiveness. So let's call upon Akmak and say, gracias, Ahau, for bringing us this day. As we sit around our virtual sacred fire, and we ask the heart of the heavens, the heart of the earth, the heart of the wind, the heart of the water, and the heart of the fire, and our ancestors to be with us in this moment. And we ask Akmak to bring forth our memories, our love, and gratitude for our ancestors. And if you want to, in your mind's eye or verbally, speak the name, and the Maya feel that if you give actual voice to the name, it has increased ability to be present in your heart. To speak to those that made it possible for you to live here on this earth, that may have passed on, and then virtually put that tallow candle into the fire, from your heart into the fire, with that gratitude, the intention of gratitude and love and continued guidance. So being an adult orphan, I always ask for my father Art and my mother Betty to continue to guide me, as I always have, and then place the candle into the fire. And this intention, this practice, sets the tone now for the rest of the day, as well as the next 13 days. So, if we use the world stage as one of those barometers of how the Trisina is acting out, Michelle says, yes, using all our tools, using all God's tools or a goddess's tools. And as we continue to review and self-examine, we do find things that we have forgotten. And to the Maya, it's through the ritual, it's through the practice that enables that stuff not to be forgotten, not to be buried, but to continually present itself for healing. So I'd like to introduce Steve Copeland, who's birthday is today. Happy Mayan birthday, Steve. Steve is a one-achmach. And he has agreed to talk to us today about what it's like to be a one-achmach and how this energy has guided him through whatever he's had to go through. And I kind of like to introduce him by, a little short bio. I've known Steve, I don't know how long it's been now, 2008 maybe, 2009, somewhere in there. And I met him through his Shift of the Ages project, which is started out being a documentary film telling the story of Don Alejandro Cerrillo Perez Achlach, who at that time was the grand elder of all the indigenous people in the country of Guatemala. And it became an official post in 2008 under the then President Colom. And Steve traveled far and wide to document Tata's story, and it was put into a film that was released last November, December in 2012. And Steve will be giving us updates on the project because it's not really just a film. It's much, much more than that. And the work continues. And Steve, as one Achmach, has been the director and the leader of that effort throughout the entire process. Living in Southern California, I don't know, Steve, I'll ask you other aspects of your personality and your work, but welcome. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, BJ. Good morning.
A lot of your fans are on the call here. So I know that people are going to want to get to know you a little bit more personally, and this is a great way to do it. We have a framework from which to do it. So what I'd like to ask is, first off, how in the world did you get involved with this Mayan stuff? I mean, it's not mainstream. It's become much more well-known around the world, and more so all the time. But you stepped onto this path when, and what were those circumstances?
Consciously, I was about 11 years old, but I mean the conditions were set up before that, even earlier on. But the first day that I really became aware of some greater influence, Mayan influence, was during the harmonic convergence in 1987 when my parents kept me home from school. I was in elementary school. I think I was about 11 years old, and they kept me home because there could possibly be the end of the world that day. And I remember a solar eclipse that I watched in the middle of the day when everything went dark, and that was the seed right there. I said, holy cow, I can't believe this is happening right now. And it just stayed with me over the years. And
can I add something here?
Sure.
On Steve's Mayan cross, his conception energy is seed. And that conception energy starts upon gestation, 260 days before you were born. But it kind of carries through and influences you until your young adulthood. People would say, around about age 13, somewhere between the age 13 and 26. So the fact that you just use that word, seed, at age 11, to me, as a Mayan cross enthusiast, is huge.
Yeah.
So
I think I was telling you the other day, too, that even when I was born, my parents owned a pyramid store where they sold different types of pyramids and books. It was a spiritual shop in LA. And when I came home, they had me under a copper pyramid with a little crystal at the top of it, and that's what my crib sat under. So it was early on that I started getting some of this stuff.
Yeah, well, you picked them, right?
I think so.
Yeah. So, at age 11, were you aware of Jose Arguelles and the movement, or did you come to find that later on?
No, not yet. That came later on, probably later teens, when I started picking up the books. And I think the first book that I read was one of Jose Arguelles' earlier books. Was it Surfing? I'm sorry, I can't remember the title. But
yeah, he wrote several.
And I got into Time in the Technosphere, and I started reading. I read some of Kalman's books and Jenkins, and I was just fascinated, by what I was reading. And that's really what started my, the kind of conscious part of the journey of, looking for information and meeting people. And so that was really kind of late teens into my early 20s.
Well, you must have had influence of a lot of other alternative things as a child. Why do you think there was such resonance with the Mayan stuff? Do you have an idea about
my
that?
mom was really into, but actually both my parents were into astrology, more so my mom, and crystals and things like that. So I guess I had a framework for it, of understanding energies and days, and there was always the books laying around, all these different spiritual books, and at that time I kind of, tried to push away from all of that, but, it was still there. So I guess it was just maybe easier to grasp or to absorb just because of the framework that I'd already set up for this or had set up. And it just made sense. And at a deeper level too, because it wasn't just, it wasn't just surface stuff. This was your astrological day sign, and everybody's this way. I mean, there's so many different elements to it, different levels, that was just fascinating. The way that things interact with each other and different energies come together, that was just mind-blowing.
And where were you in life when you decided to commit a large part of your time to this Shift of the Ages project?
It started pre 9/11, and I was just shown some things, kind of my teenage year, where I really just opened up and experienced more of life, and had a sense of, wow, this is, the way that I'm feeling right now is amazing. Like, I wish that the world could have this feeling. And at that time I was organizing events and concerts. So I felt my purpose at that point, but it really didn't gain focus and really hone in on what I was here to do until 9/11. I mean, that really brought it home. I felt how temperamental things are in this world, and that even though I felt like I was contributing at some level, like I knew that I was helping in my own way, it just became more serious, maybe more urgent at that point. So that's when really I took a step out of my life and really looked at, okay, what am I doing right now? Who are my friends? Who am I associated with right now? What direction am I going? And I just took some time off to get right with my body, to get right with my mind. Just look for the message. Be open to receive what work needs to be done in the world right now. And at that time I was living in Costa Rica and was traveling Latin America. I was in Panama for a little bit. And that's really where the message came to me, that it was time to make a movie. And originally, at that time, this was like 2000, early post 9/11, 2002, and there the kind of the idea to get the movie started to come in. But when I was down in Costa Rica is really when I was shown what it was to be about. Originally, it was the bridging the gap between science and spirituality, which there was just this void at that time. I mean, What the Bleep Do We Know hadn't come out, and some of these earlier films. And, as I was reading all these really cool things, and it's like, God, who is talking about this? Nobody. So it started out as an effort, about this time that we're living in and how things are coming together. And so that's how it started out. was more of a just a standard documentary, and then along the way, I got introduced to some stories and elders, and it just kind of took on a form of its own after that.
So the idea for that came after 9/11. You were in Costa Rica for 9/11?
No, I was in California when that happened.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I went to Costa Rica afterwards. After 9/11.
But the energy there is really expansive, though. I mean, I think a lot of people become very inspired while they're there in all that nature, because that's one of the main reasons you go there, is to be in nature.
And the sense of freedom, too. I mean, there's things work differently down there. I was living in Capos for a while, and there's a fair amount of traffic, not too much, but there's no stop signs, there's no stop lights or anything like that, and they have these intersections where people just merge into it. I mean, you've got 20 cars coming into an intersection at the same time, and they figure it out. It's just that sense of freedom there that everything isn't so measured, and so that I think that's what you get down there, really. And just the wildlife, especially in Costa Rica, it's just the abundance of the natural world around you. It's shows you a lot about yourself.
Yeah, for sure. So how did you get involved with the Maya?
So this was I can't remember the exact year. I think 2004 was 2004 to right between 2004 and 2005. I was organizing events at that time, and we had an annual charity event that we did at Storm Stadium in Southern California with the Padres minor league team called Storm Baseball. And what we would do is we'd pick a night, and all of the gate revenue would go to charity, and we would divide it up through different charities. We had different acts that would come in and during the baseball game and whatnot. And one of the charities that I picked was an organization called Journey to the Heart that was doing a cross-cultural gathering of wisdom keepers throughout the world. And this is in a
baseball stadium.
Yeah, I mean, it was an odd pick. I mean, it was kind of like we had like Safe Families was one of the, the United Way, and most of them were like that. And we had this Journey to the Heart. It was kind of like, what's that? What's that all about? So yeah, I mean, at this time, things were pretty tense, and we had just gone to war, so things felt a little strange, and this work needed to be done. So some of that money went over to Journey to the Heart, and because they didn't have the funds to bring the Maya representatives there and all these other nations, but so the money went there, and that sponsored Tata and Elizabeth, his translator at the time, grandmother Elizabeth's airfare to be a part of this gathering. And just through that exchange, they asked me if I'd like to pick them up at the airport and give them a ride out to Joshua Tree and make sure that they got to the gathering. And I got to spend some time with them. It was really when I first heard, too, is the calendar. When I was driving in my car, they were in the back seat, and Elizabeth peeked over and just said, "Hey, Tata would like to give you a complimentary chart reading on your birth date." And at this time, I knew kind of a sense of where I was going and what I was here to do, but there was nobody around. I totally felt alone, kind of like I was floating out in the ocean on my own. And
you probably
he gave
were.
me this. Yeah, I mean, I was just like all wide-eyed and starry-eyed and just trying to talk to anybody about this craziness, and people are like, "Dude, get away! Where are you? Where's your head? Yeah, where are you?" So, at any rate, he gives me this calendar reading about today, 1 Okmok, my birthday, and it just a lump in the throat, and I just went into tears because it was so accurate. These things I was struggling with inside, and things are really deeply personal to my path and what I knew inside that I hadn't been really able to openly share with people. It just really affected me. And that's what set it up.
What was the one thing that you remember today that gave you such insight? Do you remember? Or the
one thing isn't sticking out, but there's a few. You know, they mentioned the forgiveness, the wisdom, the seed, the dawn, being a kind of a fresh energy, or maybe, you know, if like the Akmak is like the one energy with the Akmak is like the dawn of the new day, and that there's a lot of drive behind that. And I was a very driven young guy, and that's
the one energy too, because
it's like
the
pushing
numeral
the sun
is
up.
one.
Is kind of what I felt like I was doing. And they told me that this is also the day of the prostitute, the day of the sinner, and these things where you take on a lot of just crap because you're there to help. And, you know, a lot of times you can become the martyr with that day sign, because, you know, with that capacity to forgive, it's like all of these horrible things can happen right in front of you and you've already forgiven it, you know, or you want to move through it. You know that you're being shown something that you're going to learn a lesson from eventually. And it makes it difficult too, because you see all these theatrics and fireworks going off right in front of you, and it's like, all right, I got to stay centered through all of this BS right now, and, you know, eventually there's going to be some kind of message that comes out of this. And so internally there was, especially when I was younger, there was a lot of battles going on internally of like, why is this stuff happening? You know, why can't things just be cool? So, but yeah,
because you had a sense for what that was. You had a sense for what that equanimity was, but here you are caught up in a lot of drama.
Yeah,
so
it's
harder
contributing to a lot of
drama.
You
know what it could be.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it too is just from the way that I was responding to it. You know, wanting to work things out with people that you clearly can't work things out with. You know, that you're maybe not supposed to work things out with, but there's just that sense where I'm just like stuck. I want to fix everything. You know, it's like, oh, we could put this together. It will work good. And they're like, well, you're on your own over there. So, you know, this led this journey of, we spent some time together with Tata, myself out in Joshua Tree, and that's where I, you know, after hearing about the day signs and learning a little bit about that, hearing the Mayan prophecies, hearing Tata's story, what he's been through, you know, as an elder, and I was just jaw on the ground. You know, I had to help this man in any way that I can, because here's this humble man with that's living this amazing life, and he's totally under the radar, you know, while he's doing it. No one, you know, at least no one I know had heard about the Mayans. No one even really knew that they were here still at that time. So,
wow.
Yeah, that's that story.
So how has that evolved? I mean, you got involved in this film, traveled all around the world with him, getting footage. I won't steal the punchline of the film, but encourage people to watch it, because there is a definite storyline of Don Alejandro and his own spiritual path and recovering his own spiritual authority. So what kind of observations have you had, or do you have now, about that part of your life, and what seems to be coming from that?
Sure. I think one of the first things learned is Maya time operates at a different time frequency than, you know, Gregorian time. And the struggle to make things happen, you know, kind of the power versus force struggle. And you really have to surrender to things aren't going to happen exactly when you want them to happen, you know. And that was really the kind of the first lessons that I learned, was just throwing the hands up and just saying, you know, I'm in the flow. Whatever happens, happens. We'll stay centered. We'll hang on to our integrity and intention, and just move forwards in any way that we can. And I thought I had an idea getting into this. I was just open, wanted to help, and I had no clue what all of this stuff was about. The ancestral, the wound that's been carried through the ages, that's being dealt with right now in the world, and not just with indigenous people, but I mean this thing is ancient. That's playing out right now, and just the magic, the being aware of certain things and maybe anticipating certain energies to come in or whatever, and then seeing that actually manifest and having to take a step back and just go, holy shit, this just happened. We knew this was going to happen. Things like that. I mean, just the magic of being tuned into the moment, and how I don't know how to describe it really. It's just that sense that you're a part of something that is bigger than yourself, and really it is yourself. It is you, and you're connected to it. You're playing a role. You're a character in this unfolding.
What about the life around you, your peers and your family? How did that world that you had created react or respond to your getting so involved with the Maya and the Mayan system and that whole consciousness?
I'm a pretty passionate guy, so when I talk with people, I'm pretty excited about things that are exciting to me. And I could tell after a while that people are just kind of over it, especially family and close people that knew me in different ways, and I just think they weren't ready for it at the time. A lot of people. So here I am, just explaining these things that I've seen, and I'm just getting the glossed eyes and people looking at me saying, "What are you talking about?" So it was a little rough. I felt that is the time right before Tata, and actually I was so committed to the work that we were doing at that time that nobody could tell me anything. I was just so focused on. I knew it was right with me, and it didn't matter what anybody said. But it does wear on you after a while.
So how did you cope with that? Did you just shook it off?
I just think nose down, just stayed busy working, and there's no shortage of tasks to do in the work that we've been done. I mean, it like you said earlier, the movie is just such a small part of the work that we've been doing. It shows the work that's being done. I mean, these events need to get organized. There's places to go, people to see, people not to see. Some people that you have to watch out for.
What do you mean by that?
Well,
people not to see. Are you referring to what a phrase that you used when you and I were talking before? You talked about the spiritual politics.
The spiritual politics.
Is that what you're referring to?
Well, you think you're unified in this higher understanding, and then everybody's out working together, and you realize that that's just not the case. And I've seen more division in this world than I have anywhere else. To tell you the truth, it's because I don't know. There's almost like this spiritual greed too. Like, I'm the chosen one, or I'm the one that is sharing this information, and I know so and so, and they told me this or that, or you know what I'm saying? So there's
I know exactly
there's just that whole dynamic, and you try to operate from the heart and come from the right place, and you just get devoured sometimes when you're in that space. There's a lot of egos and all kinds of stuff that you have to protect yourself when you're in this world.
In all honesty, that's one of the best parts of the Shift of the Ages film, is that you expose that in a way that most of these others just They don't go there. They glorify the whole situation with the Mayan indigenous cultures and all of that. They only touch on the loftier aspects of it, and they don't look at the dark side. Yeah. And Shift of the Ages, I mean, just by, I mean, you really go there. And it's kind of, it's astounding, I think, for a lot of viewers to realize that. Is that kind of what feedback you've gotten from this?
Sure, yeah. I mean, this is life. Horrible things happen, and we're dealing with horrible things every single day. But within this symphony that's playing right now, I mean, there's all extremes. Everything's happening at once. So I thought, there was a message. I wish I remember the year that this came back, but I remember there was a gathering in Bolivia that Tata and Elizabeth and some other elders were at, and I'm just going to say it might have been around 2009 or 2010. But something interesting came back out of that, and I remember the message that was delivered. And the message that came out of that was, the day of the elder, the day of the guru is over. And that, these are elders that are saying that. So that really hit me, because that's how I felt, not, these are people, these are, that we're moving from this vertical kind of hierarchy structure into more of a horizontal, level playing field where people are people, and no one's above anybody else. We're all contributing to a lot of the things that we don't like in this world. Tata's got to jump on an airplane and pollute the sky to fly to these gatherings that he's going to. I mean, he's eating the same crappy food that all of us are sometimes eating. He's putting, I don't know if he has a car. I don't think he has a car, but I'm sure he sits in a car that has gasoline. Just to focus on
irony.
Yeah, I mean, just to focus on all the whole spiritual part of it, and is missing a really big part of the story. That these struggles that we're going through. I mean, the elders are going through the same struggles, and maybe even a whole deeper level than a lot of us too, because they're conscious of what they're going through. I mean, families falling apart. Horrible things just unfolding.
Yeah. Atrocious crimes, bodyguards.
I mean, in Guatemala, it was rough. You mentioned that about Tata being named the first ever indigenous ambassador of Guatemala, and what it took for the Maya to come together and campaign behind Colom, who they had no reason to trust politics or the system at all. I mean, completely marginalized. The Guatemalan Civil War didn't even end until, I think, 95 or 96 for the peace accords in Guatemala. And, I mean, you're talking to a man who's had to bury family members, from the massacres that happened there in Guatemala. It's just, it's unbelievable, and this is a place where, when I've been down there on some of these missions or documenting or whatever we're doing down there, I mean, we've just missed car bombs going off and blowing up senators or congressmen, and things like that happen while we're down there, and it's really close by.
You want to tell the story about when you were whisked away by some Secret Service people at the airport when you were flying in to do?
Yeah, that's an example of just being in the flow. Usually, when you're walking down the you're in the airport, you're going to go to immigration. Usually, you don't have a couple of guys in suits walking towards you and stop you and just say, "Pasaporte." And it's like, okay, pull out the passport, give them the passport, and they kind of usher you into this little side room over there and open up the door, and I'm standing in this room and kind of stretching my body a little bit, and about 10 minutes later, I've got this same guy coming back with my passport, not with the passport, but just guides me over to this back door and just says, here. Opens up the door, and outside of the airport, now I'm outside of the airport, and there's a limo car right there. Something looks like at a Goodfellas or something like that. It's like, please, get in. Okay. So I get in that car.
I'll never be seen again, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, just hauling ass through Guatemala City and have no idea where I'm going. And go all the way up this big hill, and we come to this giant white palace-looking thing, and it's this presidential hotel. And my bags are already inside the hotel, and he gives me my passport and says, "Welcome to Guatemala," And that was about probably an hour of my life where I had no idea what was going to happen, if I was going to.
So did they put you up there?
Yeah, this was for Tata's inauguration, when he was inaugurated into.
So they were giving you that. I thought they were going to grill you or something, or grill you or kill you or both.
No, they're pretty nice, actually. I didn't know what was going to happen on that one, but we got out of it, and that was good. It was good to see Tata being recognized, and they created this whole new wing of the Guatemalan government to represent the indigenous people of Guatemala, which was just huge, and they got to hang their flag on the Capitol building, the Mayan flag, a flag for them. So
but now that all came down, right, after Colón left office?
Yeah, I mean, it was bittersweet. And, Tata had ideas of being an external ambassador and traveling and just the internal grinding politics of Guatemala. He's already, I think, 82 or 83 years old when this happened. I mean, and then he's got a full-time job, and he's got bodyguards, armed bodyguards around him at all time. I mean, this is a spiritual man, that's now working in one of probably the most corrupt governments in the world, and just the stories that you would hear, and just the grinding, all the stuff that he had to deal with on a day-to-day basis. It was tough times, for sure.
So what is he doing now? He's not in that post anymore. The film has been released and is continuing to be screened around the world. So what is he up to nowadays?
He is still traveling, leading ceremony, doing gatherings. He's slowed down a bit. I mean, he's definitely getting older, and so I know he's done quite a bit of traveling this year. And we had we had a trip to Israel planned. A pilgrimage to Israel, because the film's showing there. It's been translated to Hebrew, and that was a vision that we had earlier on, is to see the movie and to do a pilgrimage through Israel. That is coming up the 23rd to the 26th, I think the film's going to be showing. And originally, we were planning to be on that journey, but just some funding issues and timing-wise, we're not going to physically be there. The film's still going to be there. But what's come in the kind of the wake of that is this Panama biocultural leadership gathering that's going on with Jane Goodall and Chief Phil Lane Jr. in Panama, and we're pretty excited about this because this is what our work was all about. It was about reuniting the eagle of the north with the condor of the south. It's a prophecy that Tata carries for the Maya, that those of the center will unite the eagle of the north with the condor of the south. And for him, the center is the Maya people of Central America. And the eagle are the eagle peoples of North America, Native American, indigenous people from North America. And a lot of people say that has a lot to do with the mind and with wisdom and knowledge, and not so much wisdom, maybe more knowledge and intellect and masculine, and the condor being more of the heart and more of the wisdom, earth wisdom. And so it's about bringing these, for him, he sees this in indigenous people, and it's about physically bringing indigenous people together to strengthen them, to remember the language, to not just preserve the culture, but to revitalize the culture. So, part of his story and what we documented in the movie is his journey was he formed this International Council of Native American Elders and Spirit Guides in the Americas, and they've been organizing these gatherings. So Panama is this fifth gathering that they've been trying to do, organized for for a while is looking like it's going to happen in Panama, and this event that's coming up in November that I'm talking about with Jane Goodall is a step towards that. They've already agreed to do it in Panama. I was there when they talked about it. So this is going to be a world indigenous gathering of elders throughout the world, with the focus on a vision for the ages, a new vision. And it's part of the second film, Vision of the Ages, that we want to document that. But this event that's coming up, it's special because one of the things that we really wanted to do towards the end of the year in the rush to get the movie out before the end of the world in 2012 is we recorded a voiceover in Spanish, and it wasn't working, and it wasn't right. So did all that work to get the movie out in Spanish, which was what it was all about, and we had to wait. We just finished that last week.
Yay!
Yeah,
that's wonderful. Wonderful.
It felt.
That's huge.
I was going to say about the Akabal energy too. That week, it's kind of like being in the void. All that whole Kasana there, and really recognizing that we're in this completely dark, voided space or whatever, and the creativity just came out of that space. It felt divine. Like, we kind of laughed at it sometimes. The team was just really vibing, and it's just like this genius would just come through people, and it's like, holy cow, look at that. And
that's the highest expression of Akabal. It's that in-between place, between the polarities. That's where the sublime is. That's where the creative juice is. That's why monks get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and meditate before the light comes, because that's the quietest, most sublime time of the day.
Yeah.
And so you were doing
in
that
between time
figuratively by staying out of any awareness of what was going on the world stage. Kudos to you for that. That's wonderful.
Kind of like when we were doing our voice, we didn't have the money to go into the studio like we wanted to do, and so we had to compromise and improvise, and so we're recording over at our sound engineer and composer's house, and he lives right under the Santa Monica airport, and every jet in the world, every airplane decided that it wanted to fly like right at the time we're recording. It's like the neighbors are like, hey, now's a good time to just get out this weed whacker and just start right next door. So, those are the challenges. And it could have been a lot easier than it was, but just staying, not reacting, just responding. Okay, it looks like we got a 15-minute break right now, right? As we're really killing this section right here that's, really coming together, but just staying patient, just having fun with the process, and a lot of magic came out of it. And I finally got to watch the film in Spanish and share it with a couple of friends. We're still working on subtitles and some other stuff right now, but, we got the movie that we wanted to share. Now, the first film that we released, the English version, is what we're calling our Ambassador DVD, and we're looking to circulate that around the world. It's got the everything was translated in English, and it has English subtitles, but, the real heart of the project is in Spanish. For anybody to get access to the film, they still go to shiftoftheages.com? Yeah, we're working on our website right now. There's just a couple of us that are trying to make all of this happen, but we're self-distributing right now, and what we have is what we're calling our Ambassador DVD. This is the film that we released towards the end of the year. We made a few changes to it, and it has Koryanka Kilcher did the narration on this version of the film, and this is the one that we're circulating now. So on our DVDs, we have a Play It Forward program that we created, and this is a way for us to self-distribute, but also to help support Tata and the Elders Council, and then also local charities, and it's basically what it is on the DVDs. There's a code, and we're not selling the DVDs, but people can sponsor DVDs into circulation. And it's kind of like ancient prophecy that the DVDs are meant to be passed from person to person, not just held onto. So as a sponsor of the DVD, they get to pick a cause that's assigned to the DVD, and then it's played forward. So you can register that online. They get online, they enter the code, and they can talk a little bit about what their prayer for that DVD is, and they just start passing it along. And as it moves from community or person to person, it can be registered online, and there's a little map. And, we're hoping that they're a part of events and fundraisers and that they help communities shift, I've seen the movie like 10,000 times now with different groups of people, and it's always something, maybe even 20,000, I don't know, but I've seen the effects that it has with people, and how people feel afterwards and the conversations that spark afterwards, and there's something there for sure. So this Play Forward program is a way to kind of just bring the sacred back to distribution, where it's so like, hey, buy our movie and watch our movie. We don't want to market it that way. There's something special in this film. It contains the prophecies. It's got a story that is a story of all of us, that what we're all going through. Really inspiring message at the end. So this is an effort to raise some money for kind of the next phase of the project, help us distribute DVDs and really translate this message and get it, like Tata says, help it reach the four corners of the world. He wants this film translated to every language possible. He wants everybody to see it. And so we're figuring out how to do that with what we have. So just invite everybody to
Spanish enables everybody in Guatemala and all Latin America access to the wisdom. So that's fabulous.
They've been begging for the Spanish for quite a bit. It's like, let's get it in Spanish, and just we tried, and this is another lesson of Maya time, and we've tried quite a few times to make that happen, and it wasn't until it was ready to happen that it actually happened. And it was so funny how it just came together like so effortlessly, when it's like, you got to be kidding me. We've got hundreds and hundreds of hours invested into this thing, and this is how it comes together? Jeez. Yeah. But
amazing, isn't it? What a journey, Steve.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So update us on you. I mean, how has your life changed since you first started working with this? Do you feel like you're manifesting now in new and different ways?
Yeah, I think I've
over 260 days into the new era.
Yeah, it's been it's been a crazy year for sure, and especially towards the end of 2012 was a wild ride, and just the pressure and the stress and all of that, for us to get the film out, because it's like, hey, the world's going to end. You need to share the movie. So we rushed the movie out, and we made it available for free online for everyone, and we tried to organize our release of the film in LA. We had a premiere that we did, and we put all of that together in I think 9 days or something, from curtain to curtain, promoting it and filling the theater and doing all of that. So it's just been a wild ride like that. And once we finally got the film out and got some eyes on it, we did our online launch of the movie, and we made it available for everybody to watch. Then it was kind of like I could take a step back from everything, and then we had a lot of family stuff going on with relatives transitioning and people going through some pretty heavy stuff. A lot of personal stuff was going on. I think there was I think people held tight with their expectations of what this transition was all about, and maybe going through it, we were mirrored some things that, just some understanding that was maybe contradict the way that we anticipated things to happen. So I think people were like kind of left with themselves a little bit to really go inside and figure out, all right, what's all this about? What's this work that I'm doing? So that's what I've been in pretty much this year. Is I've really refocused on what it's all about. It's not just about releasing something and getting it out there. Everybody wants to get it out there. Get what out where? What message are you trying to get out, and who are you trying to get it to? I mean, it's not that easy, So we've really just been taking this, this 9 months or so in this year, and to really just refine, really get down to the core of what things are about. And I've noticed within myself that I feel like I have maybe greater capabilities to handle things that I would have completely unraveled with before and just probably jumped off a bridge or something. But I just feel like I've got some tools, that I didn't have before, and it's through these experiences. It's the wisdom that I've gained going through some of these trials. So with that, in that regard, I feel good. I feel like I can handle more in life. I'm not asking for more, but I feel like I've done okay.
Yeah, it's really divine how things are falling into place, like the Spanish translation and stuff. When there is no pressure, it just happens, and you're in the flow.
Sure.
So on behalf of everybody else on the call, I'm going to say, Steve, you're amazing, and thank you so much for the work that you do and the way that you do it, and the openness with which you share your process as a part, and affected by the work that you do. And I don't know a lot of Achmak people. I know 3, including Steve, somewhat well. And this feels to me like kind of your an Achmak modus operandi. This is kind of what you do.
This is us,
everybody I know, they've clearly got a cause and a message that's right deep from the heart. Much of the time they can feel very misunderstood and misinterpreted, but it doesn't take them off task. And they continue on, usually in a very big way, but personally you find them very understated. And it's a real interesting confluence of energies that make that happen. And for Steve, as an Achmak, his destiny is the net energy, which means that he must, in order to be in alignment with his soul's purpose, he must reach out to enormous numbers of people and things. That's the energy of the net. It's the grid. It's the web of all of us beings, everything in life, and you need to take it to that degree in order to be in fulfillment. And on his right and left hand, he's got dog. He's got an 8 dog, or C, as the spiritual authority that's in his strong suit. And, this whole notion of spiritual authority can sound like spiritual ego, right? But it's not that at all. It's that capacity to stay away from ego and stay true to love and forgiveness and, unconditionality of those things. And then on the other side, on your left side, you've got wind. You're a phenomenal communicator, very articulate. You feel the connectedness between his heart and his voice, and that's part of how I perceive you're manifesting this cross of energies, the Mayan cross. So, at the helm of a film like this and work like this, uphill battle, but you've got all the equipment and the walls are there as guides for you. You've got a total of 36 of them besides the 5 in your actual Mayan cross. Wow. And you were born in a wind year, Eek. So you've got a double wind thing going. So that's good too, because you need it. You need to have that kind of voice, that strength in your voice that helps people notice and pay attention to what you're saying.
Mm.
Do we have any questions for Steve? We're running a little bit over, but do we have any questions in the audience for Steve? This is a really good time to write it up or give us a shout. Anybody? Steve, do you have any questions for us?
Just left everybody speechless.
I have a question.
Yeah, and I'm grateful. Thank you, BJ, and thanks for the insight. And it feels good. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, it's great.
Barb, I have a question.
Yeah, who's calling?
It's
who's
Risa.
Risa
in Alberta.
hello.
Hi.
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Risa from Alberta, Steve.
Sorry, I missed the name.
Risa. It's like
Lisa?
It's like Lisa with an R.
Gotcha, Risa. Okay. Hi, Risa.
Hi. I have 2 sons who carry the same energy you do. Mm-hmm. The difference is their numbers and the year bearers.
Right.
And both of them are struggling.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're a bit older than you. They were born in the 70s. And
70 what?
72 and 74.
Yeah, a couple years.
Yeah, it's really remarkable when I did their charts to see that they actually had this, and they're both the same chart. It's like, wow, that blew me away.
Mm-hmm.
And I and their father have always been very spiritual, meditators, into astrology and so on. Very similar story to yours in how your parents and what they gave you. Very similar to what my husband and I gave our sons and continue to give. The challenge is I'm a bird, so I'm wondering if there's anything that you can say from your family story, or from your experience in life, what most gives you what you need. I mean, I don't even know if I'm asking the right question. My younger son is very, very, very spiritual, but they've forgotten. It's almost like they forgot who they were.
Mm-hmm.
To them, I know who they are. I recognize them when they came in, but it's like they've forgotten they're both healers. My younger son's a massage therapist, an excellent massage therapist. So he is doing healing work, but he's struggling with money issues.
Right. And
so,
how is he with you and the parents? Is he different with you as parents, with other people, or is this just something in general that he's struggling with?
He grew up with me as a child. Like, his father and I separated when they were both very young.
Mm-hmm.
And he lived with me for a number of years, and then when he reached his teenage years, both of them reached their teenage years, 13 or 14, it was time I could see it coming for them to go to their father, who's a very big intellect. He's very big. I'm an intellect too, but he is a big intellect. And of course, he's into Zazen, and I'm into the heart and the medicine ways through nature. And it's wonderful that we're on the path that we're on. But it's like I don't get to see them. They live at opposite ends of the country from me.
Sure, yeah.
And so when they were here, we got married. My new husband and I got married in June, and they were here. It's like I looked at all the pictures, and my younger son is just beaming with the most beatific smile on his face, watching us being married. And my other son, I could see him in his head the whole time, like wondering, what does all this mean? So it was.
What does all this mean for him?
Yes, exactly, for him. He's in partnership, but my younger son isn't. And so it's like, well, okay, how we have great talks and we meet in our hearts. I can't help him. It's so frustrating. It brings tears to my eyes and my heart cries thinking of him.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Have you and your sons done any traveling together?
I wished. I've
escape
taken them
the world
when they were,
bit. Yeah.
when they were younger, I did. But we haven't. No, not since they've grown up.
So what I'm picking up right now is, I think, sometimes you said that we're maybe stuck in our world a little bit, and he's thinking about the money, and, he's already there with the healing, and he's touching people, he's helping people. But maybe you two can carve out some time to go to someplace special together, or maybe even the three of you, and just unplug from the world. Maybe it could be visiting some sacred sites or something like that, where you can have your own unique experience together, really separate from the world that you guys have created together.
Yeah.
Within my own, that's what I really wish for with my parents was, my parents were always together, and it was always kind of them versus me. I was always trying to get them like, oh, let's go someplace. And, this year for me, my dad had some complications, and there's kind of a separation that happened with my parents. It was really the first time that I got to spend some time with my dad by himself. And we went hiking. I took him on some of the trips that we were on. He was he had never done this stuff before. We were in the teepee together. And that was huge. That was big for me because I got to see my dad in a different role and connected him in a different level. And maybe there's something in there. Maybe just taking some time to just be together and do something that you maybe never would have done before together. Create an experience that'll last the rest of your life. I don't know. Maybe kind of what I'm thinking.
I appreciate that very much.
Sure.
Thank you.
You got it.
I like that idea too. Oh, I hope he does. Right? Well,
take him to Guatemala.
I'd like to do that. Years ago, I found a coin from Guatemala, and it sits in my mesa, in the place of the earth, in the south. And it was a natural place to put it. And I have been getting, Barb knows I've been sitting every morning and meditating with the Day Lords and really exploring my own connection to all my ancestors, because I have so many,
right.
So many lifetimes and so many lineages that I've been exploring through my life. And I have a yurt on my property, and I sit very close to Waterton Park, which is a place right at the medicine line between the U.S. and Canada, so-called. And it's it's all this old history that I sit with, my own old history of the North American so-called traditional peoples. And it is a challenge. It is a challenge to walk the life between worlds, to sit in the middle world and live it in the presence at the same time that the higher one is calling you, and the one that you want to leave and move up from, kind of shift to a higher frequency, keeps pulling you down.
Sure.
Well, that's why, can I interject here? Because we're going to have to kind of wrap up here. But that's why practice is so important.
Right.
It's, it's so underrated. But if you don't do it, then you may not have connection for the whole day, which you really don't want to have happen.
Mm.
Right.
So I'd like to wrap up on that note, and if you guys want to continue to talk, we can do that after I technically end the call. But in the name of practice, I need to do the count.
Yes.
So if we'll just take a minute to ground ourselves again and feel our connection to the earth, the heart of the earth, the heart of the heaven, the heart of the wind, the heart of the water, the heart of the fire. And we thank you, Akmak, for being with us today. And we're going to give you 13 thank yous by counting off, and I'll use the Quiche language. Un Akmak, Keb Akmak, Oshib Akmak, Kahi Akmak, Hob Akmak, Waki Akmak, Bukib Akmak, Washakib Akmak, Belahed Akmak, Lahu Akmak, Hulahu Akmak, Kablahu Akmak, Ioshlahu Akmak. Feeling that just brighten the moment. And we'll close now with another happy Akmak to Steve for this next 13 days. You're one of our guides. We'll be tapping into you as well as Akmak and all these other beautiful energies of the Mayan system. And thank you all for participating with us today. Thank you, Risa and Michelle, for your questions and comments. And I will see you all again, hear you all again. I think it's it's October 26th. We'll be doing the Noel Poch, or offering. So, Matiosh, everyone, thank you so much. And we will be seeing you on the road. Best journeys here for this next Tracina.